someone wrote, "Wait, why are you not closing the deal?" making reference to the fact that I didn't pray a sinner's prayer with this lady. I get a lot of these, and I've removed the person's name on this one, retyped it, because I don't want to embarrass them. Let me share with you why I don't close the deal. I've seen my 3 children born. On one occasion, the doctor was late, so the nurse in the operating theatre had to do the delivery, and she cut the umbilical cord a little short, and blood squirted everywhere. It got on her hands, got on her face. It was funny, and we all laughed because that blood spoke of life. But imagine if it had been a stillborn child, and they picked up a dead baby, and there was blood on their hands. That blood would speak of death. It would be horrifically depressing. Instead of life, we got death, and it would be a horrible, horrible experience. Well, when I was a new Christian, I led 27 of my friends in sinners' prayers. I had a little booklet, 4 laws, 1, 2, 3, 4, say this prayer, and your name's written in heaven. I didn't understand for someone to be saved, they had to be born of God. And I ended up with blood on my hands. All of those 27 were stillborns. There was no life where I thought there should have been. There was just death, and people became what we call backsliders, but they didn't backslide at all. They didn't slide forward in the first place. They had a false conversion, something Jesus spoke of in the parable of the sower, the stony ground hearer, the thorny ground hearer, and their latter end becomes worse than the first. We call them bitter backsliders, and our churches are filled with such people. That's why I don't pray sinners' prayers with people, because I don't want to end up with stillborns on my hands. I was a new Christian. My methodology was determined by my theology. My theology was lacking. I didn't understand that people had to be born of the Spirit to be saved. They weren't born because I led them in a sinner's prayer. They weren't born of God because I led them in a decision for Christ. It had to be a work of the Holy Spirit. Think of the Ethiopian eunuch. Philip approached him and said, "Do you understand what you're reading?" And there's a reason for that. The good soil hearer hears and understands. That's the genuine convert. So when I saw my children born, the doctor was late, but it was no big deal if there's no complications. A birth is easy. It's all natural. It's just, the baby's there. All the person doing the delivery has to do is guide the head. And that's all I do as a Christian. I guide the head. I say, do you understand what I'm saying? Does this make sense? But modern evangelism doesn't do that. It prays the sinner's prayer. It's filled with traditions that we hold dear, just like the Pharisees. We hold fast our traditions. And they're horrible traditions. The tradition of the altar call, which is unbiblical, of using music to manipulate people emotionally, to pull them to the front, to make a decision, leading people in a sinner's prayer and saying, "Say after me, oh God, I am a sinner," etc. It's not only unbiblical, it's crazy. It makes no sense. Think of it like this. A man has committed adultery. His wife is willing to take him back. So what do? You take him to the doorway. He knocks on the door. The wife opens, and as she stands there, you say to the adulterer, "Dear wife." And he says, "Dear wife, I'm sorry for committing adultery." And he says, "I'm sorry for committing adultery." That's ridiculous. His wife's going to slam the door and say, "What are you doing?" And why should I have to lead him in an apology to his wife? And when people have sinned against God, they need to go to God and say, "Oh God, be merciful to me, a sinner," and not be led by me for offending God and violating His law. He's not interested in their words, He's interested in their heart. And because of these modern traditions of altar calls, manipulative music, every head bowed and eye closed and all this stuff, it's not at all biblical. Our churches are filled with false converts. I've got a book called God Has a Wonderful Plan for Your Life, The Myth of the Modern Message. It has a picture of Stephen being stoned on the front. That book contains statistics that will show you our churches are filled with false conversions. 80 to 90% of those making decisions for Christ fall away from the faith. They actually, as I said, don't fall away because they've never been born again. They've been manipulated by man to make a decision for Jesus, and the latter end is worse than the first. I am amazed when I hear ministries say 5 million souls saved under this ministry, and I think, how do they know that? They mean 5 million decisions they've got. They've got people to fill out decision cards but they don't have access to the book of life. Only God does. So that's the reason I don't lead people in sinners' prayers. I pray for them, I give them literature, I encourage them to seek after God and do it today, but I don't lead them in a sinner's prayer because it's unbiblical and it does great damage to the cause of the gospel.